Okay, so yeah, do you want to just kind of explain?
Yeah, so we're having, one of our questions is like, does it matter if the tissues are frozen or fresh? Like the amount of trials it takes to desiccate them, and then also, does it matter what solution they're in? Like, does certain solutions like maybe keep them more hydrated, so it's going to take longer, or like permeate like the mucosal layer on the vocal fold or whatever. So we have like an isotonic solution that's just like saline, pretty normal, pretty typical in literature, that what people use. So one of our trials will be to run pigs that we're soaking in saline, and then we're going to compare that to pigs that we soak in Ringer solution, which is that one we showed you in there. And it's just like, I don't know, a little bit different. And both of those will be fresh. And then our control group, because most people, what they do is they use frozen, like flash frozen.
Yeah.
Allergies, that's like the pretty typical, just like what everyone does, because it's
Like
easy, you can
article
save
density,
them.
yeah.
So that's going to be our control group. So we're going to say, okay, this is what everyone's doing, is the frozen ones, but is it actually better to do it fresh? And if so, which solution is better? So,
Yeah. Yeah, nice. And how are we doing that?
so we're going to we're hoping to do 7 to 10 pigs in each. So we get enough data to kind
So
of...
7 just soaking in Ringer, 7 soaking in saline, and 7 that are flash frozen. We're gonna run the flash frozen ones next semester.
Are flash frozen soaked in saline and flash frozen, or just no solution?
So previous studies have done saline, have soaked them in saline, and then we're still kind of trying to decide that. So I think it'd be nice to actually compare, like, having them soaked in saline, because then that would give us another option, right?
Yeah.
We compare just refrigerator and saline, and then flash frozen and saline. And also literature has shown that it doesn't really matter how long they're frozen, really, if they don't defrost, because what they're worried about are really like the ice crystals that form. If it's flash frozen, they show that basically the ice crystals don't have enough time to form and like to grow.
Yeah.
So they don't damage, the tissue, because that's kind of what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to protect it, and we're trying to keep it as close to normal and like human-like as possible. Okay? And we're gonna be dehydrating for 5-minute trials. Okay? And correct me if I'm wrong, right? So 5-minute trials, and we're gonna basically mount the larynx on the thing. We're gonna start the high-speed recording. We're gonna first we're gonna phonate them. It's like our baseline trial, making sure that they're actually like phonating at baseline, okay? And then we're actually going to dehydrate them for 5 seconds supraglottally, and
With
then
what?
with the air, the compressed air, that's just like the air tank, right? So we're gonna do that for 5 minutes, and then we're gonna phonate them again, meaning we're not gonna have any supraglottic air. It's just gonna be infraglottic or subglottic. Sorry. Yeah. So subglottic, right? Exactly, from like our pseudo lung, right?
Yeah.
And so we're kind of imitating, like, a lot of dehydration typically occurs on the surface, like when we're either orally inhaling pollution, working out, things like that, where you're really just kind of, right? Inhalation is what kind of dehydrates our vocal folds. Exhalation should actually humidify them. So that's kind of what we're trying to see.
Sure.
Okay. Any questions before we start on this lovely thing? No? Okay. So, where are the scalpels? Can someone grab?
They're right there.
Awesome. Thank you, Chelsea. Alright.
Do you think
So
we
we'll
can-
start with these big ones. So these big ones are actually the ones that we're going to use to do more of like the larger dissection portion. My voice is...
Okay, mine's dying too. I'm like hoarse.
Right? I'm like, oh! BYU game last night, you know?
Hey, at least we won.
So if you want to get closer, I'm gonna
Yeah, I'm trying to
show
figure
the
out.
camera something. Okay, so does everyone kind of know where we are? This is anterior, this is posterior. This is our partial epiglottis that kind of got
It was
cut
like
off.
that.
Yeah,
Not
no,
funny.
you're fine, yeah.
They just did it for us.
Right? So this is usually what the epiglottis will look like. It's kind of this little, tiny little guy. We have our arytenoid cartilage kind of, if you touch it, you feel kind of like cartilaginous, right? It's kind of like a hard, bumpy surface. We don't want to cut this, okay? We want to kind of protect this. All we're doing, and I'm just going to do this first just so that we kind of know. So this is our epiglottis. We're literally just kind of cutting like a triangle shape. So you're just doing like one, sorry guys, this is a bad view. So we're cutting this way, like that, and we're cutting this way, like that. Just like a little triangle off, okay? And then that's gone, okay? And then we don't really need to worry about anything else that we cut back here, okay? And then, so these are pretty, I mean, Chelsea and Emily did a great job getting rid of like all the gunk. Usually they're not this clean when we get them.
Oh, okay.
We get like, you know, kind of tissue everywhere. See how there's like, there are parts of tissue? That's usually everywhere. Do you guys know what this is? What's that, guys?
Cricothyroid.
Yeah, cricothyroid. Yeah, so it's for, you know, our elongating muscle, okay? So it's pretty similar. You guys know the anatomy, okay? So another thing, if we look down like deep inside of them, do you see kind of like layers of like tissue? Kind of like the false vocal folds and the true vocal folds? Camera. So we're actually going to kind of touch. I like to touch inside and make sure that I'm not going too deep. And then kind of feel your fingers meet at the same time. Then you want to start cutting. It's better to cut more superficially, more above than deeper, right? So you don't want to cut, let's start there. So you kind of do this like rocking motion. We really want to make sure our fingers are kind of tucked in. We don't want to cut our hands off, okay?
So the purpose of this is to cut the thyroid cartilage. We're going to take that top part off.
But also you don't want to just slice like right through. You want to make sure that you're only cutting the thyroid cartilage and that you're not going, at least this is what I like to do because I find it easier to not mess up this way. Because it's kind of tricky if you don't really have the hang of it. We're also so we need to make sure when we're attaching the vocal, or when we're actually mounting the larynx onto the, I don't know, what's it called, mounting I know the name of it. What is it? The bench, right?
Yeah.
When you're attaching it or actually mounting it and putting it on there are two like prods that come in on the side and they stick through the tissue. We need to make sure that those prods have some meat to go into. So that's why we don't want to cut too high, but we also don't want to cut too low. Okay? Because we kind of want to cut in a smile shape. So like this and a little bit higher up.
Okay.
Not super high up, right? Because we don't want to cover this area, but a little bit. And we still want to keep some part of the thyroid cartilage, because if we get rid of all of it, then it's just flimsy tissue that's just hanging out, and it's harder for it to actually vibrate. And it's also not as realistic as keeping, right, the cartilage intact. So, and I'm doing a bad job here, but you kind of need to get into it. I don't care if you mess it up. I'd rather you mess it up than cut yourself, okay? So be careful.
We have
that.
all of these to practice.
Yes. Okay, so estimate, like I said, it's easier, or it's better to kind of go higher than going lower. So you just go touch here. Okay. Oops. And then it comes to a point where it starts to kind of crack off. You see it's kind of you're starting to see some of the meat inside of it, not just cartilage. Okay, oh good, see? I'm not doing too badly today. But you really kind of have to get into it, but make sure that your fingers are far away from that blade, because this will pierce them. I feel like this one's not as bad as the other one. The other one's
These ones are sharp.
they're bad. I've gotten cut with those and I was like, Sandy, help me. Okay. So, Sandy is awesome. She'll bring you back to life if anything happens. Okay. Sorry guys. But really, you're going to feel that, hear that.
It's like cooking, but you don't eat it. That's kind of what I think about it. So see how it kind of popped off? Okay. I like to pull it a little bit. That's just me. But I like to pull it a little bit just so that I know that I'm not getting any like cartilage off. Okay. So then you can kind of feel like, oh, I think that's more cartilaginous, right? So then you can just do this. And I find that people have different techniques. Okay. Some people like to cut more off, but I would just rather be safer than, because it's so easy to cut the arytenoids off. It's so easy. Okay. So, how pretty. Okay, so that comes off. Then you're left with all this like inner tissue. Okay, I'm going to take a pause here. Okay. There will be blood, guys. So, do you see blood right here? So I want you to, do you see kind of where the true folds are?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And do you see where the false vocal folds are? Basically
Yes.
everything up here. Okay. Oh, we forgot the hemostats. Can someone go grab those? Do you know where those are?
I do, but
I'll hold this.
Okay, thank you. So the hemostats are basically like little what are they called? Like pincers that will like hold on to this
Oh, okay.
so that you're actually able to see the
Hold it
inside.
Okay.
Okay, and see, so that's what we're talking about when we're talking about the true vocal folds. Okay. Ow, this is hurting. My ring is like, I don't know what it's doing. It's like poking the
I know, it's weird.
living daylights out of me. Okay, so these are hemostats, okay? It's cool. You feel like a doctor when you're in here. Hand me the hemostat, okay? Make it quick. But yeah, so you do this, it's kind of hard to position them, but I find that using two is a lot easier than using one,
2 is way better.
right? Because then you actually really get into kind of the insides of it. So this is like the hardest cut, I think, because it's so easy to puncture the true vocal folds, and if we puncture the true vocal folds, what will happen? Any guesses?
Then we can't use it.
Yeah, we can't use it because we basically like popped a hole in
Yeah.
our vocal fold. And
It's
then
not gonna.
It will
phonate.
spoil there.
yeah, instead of the vocal folds actually like vibrating, it'll just be like air popping out of one side and like air popping out from the middle. Not very effective when it comes to speaking.
This is the cut that determines if we can use the pig.
Yeah. So you also want to make sure that kind of this area is cut off. Do you see kind of those like flappy little pieces up here? You want to make sure that that's cut off. However, you don't want to go through too deep. And could you also go grab sutures?
Yep.
Sorry. Thank you. Emily just knows where everything is. So then you actually start cutting here. All right. All right. So do you kind of see where I'm doing or what I'm doing with this? Okay. Good. Nice. And this is kind of, I mean, my scariest part is like the anterior portion of it, because once you get to the back, it's a little easier, because then you're kind of just avoiding the true vocal folds. But see, then you can even use this bigger part. Okay, and see how that little guy came off, right? And I mean, hopefully we wouldn't get rid of, so this is still usable, right? Because we didn't get rid of any of that muscle. You can really see the layers here, right?
Okay.
Okay. And then you do the
So
opposite.
this is the true
Sorry.
vocal fold, right here.
Yeah, so the one that's more
like,
superficial.
pinky
Do you see
one?
that? Yeah.
Okay.
Well, just this whole area right
Okay.
here. Ugh, this is gross. I hate this. I hate the blood. But anyway. Alright. Then you do the same thing on this side. Really want to make sure that you're...
How hard are you pressing?
I'm not pressing very hard. These are like, they're pretty sharp. It's really just kind of like knowing where you're hitting. So these will like cut through in like an instant. See?
Honestly, you're just gonna have to do it a couple times.
Yeah, because it's just like, I mean, we don't really know what it feels like to cut through skin, right? Hopefully. But it's really easy. It's super simple. And plus, this is saturated with like liquid already, so it makes it even more easy. Okay. So this isn't the best cut, but you guys get the idea, right? We want to get rid of, and we want to get rid of this area too. So we would actually keep these little guys and kind of cut all that cartilage off without actually hurting the true vocal folds. Okay, so that's why it's a little complex, but Emily's a pro.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I feel like I'm cutting into the wrong thing. Okay. So you'd actually cut all this
That
stuff
stuff
off as
too.
well. Yeah.
Just like all of the lighter
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Well, more of like the squishy, like it's gonna flap. Think
Yeah,
of it
yeah.
as like if
Totally.
like air goes through it, is it gonna
Like, what
be
is
just
it
like flying
gonna be like?
around? If it's flying around, we don't want it. But if you think it'll be fine and it won't move as much, like I mean, we could still use this, I think. But we also want to make sure this anterior commissure doesn't have a ton of floppy stuff. So what people usually do is they kind of do this little thing here, and they try to cut as much of it off as possible. But again, it's hard because you don't want to puncture through the thyroid cartilage because, I'm gonna grab, oh sorry, this one. I'm just making a mess here. Okay. Oh, and sorry, can you grab the little, do you remember what we used to use with this? It was like the tweezer? No.
I think we started using these.
Did we use those? We used something else though. The one that,
We used pliers, but these were way easier.
yeah?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
This is what we used. I
Okay.
don't know.
Let's try these. Alright, so after that, so really when you're opening this package, make sure that you're not cutting yourself, okay? Because this is also very sharp because it's going to go through cartilage, right? So make sure that you're okay. Don't get too excited when you're opening it. You want to make sure that it's kind of like threading or like
Like a needle.
like sewing, yeah. You're gonna do the same thing that you would do if you were to sew something, right? You want to make that knot at the end so that it doesn't
Go
kind
through.
of come out. Okay. Yeah, good. All right, and you're gonna do this several times. How many times did you do it, Emily?
Thread it through.
Yeah.
Like 4.
4 times? Okay. So let's do about 4 times, okay? And it's a little harder with your gloves, but it is doable. Oh no. Okay. It's kind of tricky because you don't want to mess it up. 'Cause if you do it on the wrong side, you know the drill, right? Okay. All right. Same thing. Make sure you're doing that. And one more time. Alright, good. So you see that knot that we did? Make sure the knot is on the outside, not on the inside, because if it's on the inside, it's going to influence vibration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Alrighty. And this eventually gets gross, so if you want to change out mats in between, that's fine. But I just kind of go with it until... So then we want to start at the outside, right? We really want to go through. Come on. We also want to make sure we're not puncturing through the vocal folds. It's kind of tricky. See that? So it went in through the thyroid cartilage. We're actually gonna just run it through. Alright, and then we're gonna do it again. See how very simple, just Do it with love. Okay. And please don't cut yourself with this either. It can go through your skin. So, see how easily it's going through this cartilage? Imagine your skin, guys. Okay, so we want to do this about 4 to 5 times, I'd say. What do you think, Emily?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's perfect.
Because we don't want it to just kind of get on there and then we're gone, like it's done. Okay, and you can use these or we can use pliers. But I think these probably work best.
I like these.
Yeah.
for sure. The pliers are so big.
Yeah. Okay. See, attached. Okay, beautiful. I would cut this off if you're like 100% sure that you're done with this. I'd cut it off because I don't want it just like, poking something and dying. So then you can just grab this and cut it. Okay. Then you're left with just the string. We want to keep it pretty long so that we have some room to actually pull, right? Ew. But that's kind of what the gist is. Okay. We're also going to measure this. So we measure the length. Before we do anything though, we actually do want to measure everything.
Yeah.
Where is our little or measure?
I think it's in the other room. So most of the measurements we'll do the day before.
Yes.
The only ones we do after are like the vocal folds.
So we actually measure, I'll show you the spreadsheet. We measure like the thyroid cartilage, the length of the trachea, and it's usually the same. It's pretty uniform because we just cut it for them to all be the same. We're also measuring the distance of like the thyroid cartilage. Okay, so the width or the diameter. I don't know, what would you call this? The width? The
Yeah.
length?
With
Yeah.
Okay. And then we also measure the actual vocal folds. So you measure how, like, from the white part to the white part, and then from the pink part and the white part. Okay. And then we're also measuring inside here, how like,
Okay.
the diameter of it.
So
Okay.
Kim said to me that part of the new program was measuring the scale. Do either of you know what that means?
Measuring the scale of what?
I think so. This is what I think what she meant.
Okay.
Was because you told her how you put like
Added
marks on it,
yeah.
and so like measuring like okay,
The distance. Oh, got
Yeah.
it. Yeah, that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah.
That would be really
So
nice.
did she say our marks worked? I'm assuming then they
I'm
worked.
assuming they did. She didn't have. I asked if she had any other feedback. She said she didn't.
Cool.
Okay,
That's
good.
awesome.
Thank you for meeting with her as well, guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Okay, good. And then, do you guys want to give it a go?
Yeah, I
Um,
do.
I'll pull up
Should I
some
turn
of the
this off?
information. Yeah, I'll pull up some of the information that we have.